Good morning, students. Today we will study about our next topic in generative models, that is latent factor models, beta binomial model, and maximum likelihood estimate. So let us see the key takeaways for today's session. First, we will have an introduction to latent vector models. Then we will see about certain examples of LVMs, that is latent vector models. Then we will see about beta binomial model, and then we will see about maximum likelihood estimation. So if we have to talk of LVMs, that is latent vector models, these have a major application in areas where maybe some of the data is not known, and it will help us make usage or employ the past data which is known to us. So it can be employed in a manner to see you get better results. One of the examples for LVM could be where you are trying to represent the attraction to a specific person. So attraction becomes one of the variables, and which is of course not visible but can have certain factors which are visible. Like once you get attracted to someone, you start talking to that person, you start making calls with that person, right? You start getting close to that specific person. So this representation basically is shown in LVM. And we will be seeing some more examples related to stress and other things. And also in beta binomial, which is very useful for Bayesian statistics, also has greater applications in situations where probability of success and failure is considered. And then we have maximum likelihood estimator, which of course again has a major application in the area of probability. So let us see more about LVM. So what are latent variable models? So these are basically statistical models, and that try to relate a set of observable variables, which are basically called as manifest variables, and they try to relate these variables to a set of latent variables. LVMs are the short forms for latent variable models. Now, it's basically assumed that the responses on the indicators or manifest variables are the result of an individual's positions on the latent variables. So, the response of the indicator or on the indicator or the manifest variables. So, indicators are basically the manifest variables also. So, these are basically the result of an individual's position on the latent variables, and that the manifest variables have nothing in common after controlling the latent variable. So, this basically is termed as local independence. So, this is basically a diagram which is trying to represent a space, and it is trying to represent the latent space versus the manifest space. So on the upper side, you have the latent space, that is basically the unobserved variables, and there is one specific factor which is relating to the other variables, that is the manifest space, and these are the observed variables, right? So there is a line, basically a dotted line, trying to differentiate between the latent space, that is the unobserved variables, and the manifest space, that is the observed variables. Now you can have different types of latent variables. Basically you can have continuous as well as categorical. So manifest variables can also be continuous and categorical. Similarly, latent variables also can be continuous and categorical. So they are basically grouped according to whether the manifest and latent variable are categorical or continuous. Like if you see the table, you have the latent variables against the manifest variables. If it is continuous, for that it is basically considered, factor analysis is basically considered. If the latent variable is continuous and the manifest variable is categorical, for that a specific application like item response theory could be considered. And then if the latent variable is categorical and the manifest variable is continuous, you basically have latent profile analysis. And when both are categorical, that is latent variable is categorical and manifest variable is categorical, you consider the latent class analysis. So this was basically a brief discussion on the different types of latent variables. In general, you have to just remember that they can be categorical or they can be continuous. Now, what are basically latent variable models? Now, we are just trying to consider an example in behavioral science where researchers are basically more interested in studying the theoretical constructs that cannot be basically directly observed. Now, this phenomena is basically referred as latent variable or these are certain common factors referred as, right? So, you can have some unmeasurable pure variables or maybe the true scores. So, they are basically referred as true scores or pure variables, and they are basically not directly observed. That is why they are termed as unobserved or something which cannot be seen, right? And they are basically free of measurement errors. Now, for some of the examples of latent variable could be in psychology, you could have self-concept and motivation could be the example, and then in education you can have the verbal ability and the teacher expectancy. So, these are certain examples of latent variables. Now, we can also consider another example of a latent variable which I discussed when someone is attracted to someone, right? This is basically a latent variable, and the person is more likely to have an increased heartbeat whenever the attracted person is seen, right? They start talking more, and of course if they have to like each other and make more phone calls. This is basically observable variable. So, the talking more is basically an observable variable, and then making phone calls is basically more of an observable variable. So, attraction has basically three arrows going towards it. One is the heartbeat, one is talking, and the other one is phone calls. So, this is one of the best ways to explain latent variable model. Now, another example we discuss is about the stress. So, a detailed example in which we are trying to scale people on latent psychological variable. Okay? So, for fun, we try to measure stress, and some people feel more stressed as compared to the others. Right? So, stress seems to be a continuous variable, and it is an interval-based variable. So, what are some of the indicators for stress? How do you identify a specific person has got some specific stress? So, here it's basically a stimulus, and it is having certain sort of relative speed, and if there is acceleration, if it is more of stress is there, it would be sensitive, and the stress factors are basically where the heart rate indicator will show that there is a lot of stress. Then you can have certain skin conductors, right, conductorize, which tries to show that maybe it's an indication that trying to show that you are stressed, or maybe the blood volume. Right? So pulse indicators would try to show that you are having some stress, so your blood pressure kind of will increase. So this is another example for latent variable. Now we have something called as multiple indicators. Right? More ideal situation to use multiple indicators will be helpful in assessing the latent variable. One of the examples for multiple indicators could be stress. Now let us see the difference between the latent variable versus the observed variable. Now the major important distinction between them is an observed variable is like something you are using a cell phone, and this is a directly observable variable and can be measured relatively easy because you can have the number of calls a specific person has made to another, right? So it's basically an easy observation. It is agreed upon what counts as an instance of using a cell phone and what does not, right? So when you are not calling a person, obviously that would not be counted, and when you are talking to a person, it's basically counted. You can see your logs, right? So latent variable or a construct such as stress is not directly observable. Of course, you have to have a knowledge that this person is being stressed, or if some symbols are being shown, right? Blood pressure and all cannot be directly seen. You have to see through a device, right? Blood pressure measuring device. So instead, it is inferred from the variables that can be observed. So once you see the blood pressure, then maybe you can realize that the person is having some pressure. Now, what are the latent variable methods? Now if we talk of what is latent variable, we have seen the representation, right? We have conceptually seen, we can also represent it geometrically and algebraically. So a latent variable is basically something like a stress which is not observed, or maybe some sort of attraction, right? The examples we discussed. And then you have basically various modern data sets. So you can extract the values from the data set, like we saw. If you want to see a person who's stressed, can be seen by measuring the blood pressure. So you can learn basically from the data, that is the data sets. You can do the process of monitoring, and then you can also troubleshoot. So there are various applications for the latent variables. You can have the drug discovery. This is one of the best applications where you try to find out new drugs. And then the product development, you can find out the issues in the product and you can improve the development process. And then you can have the batch and image data analysis. So these are certain major applications where latent variable methods could be used. And it could also be used for principal component regression, where some sort of regressors could be used. And then you have the principal component analysis, and the representation used in this is going to be geometric interpretations, and a lot of plots, interpretation of plots would be done. So these are basically some of the ways where a latent variable method could be used. Now let us see some more things related to a research, survey of research. What could be latent variables? Right? So targeted latent variables will basically will ordinarily need to have multiple indicators. We saw stress could be an example for multiple indicators, right? Or observed items or scales that are intended to measure those latent variables. Right? So one of the examples here you can see the satisfaction, which is basically shown in an oval figure, and the items are basically shown in the squares, so or rectangles basically. So these that are intended to measure one satisfaction, right, and that is the circle, and items are basically represented as the square. So your satisfaction is basically the latent variable, and they are basically measured by using the different values of the item. Now, why are latent models more useful? As I told you, one of the most important reasons for studying LVMs is that they enable us to leverage our prior knowledge when we are trying to define a model. So we can use whatever previous knowledge we have that can be applied to make the model more strong. So we can define that model more better. Now some of the data might be naturally unobserved, right? Some of the things cannot be seen, so they are naturally unobserved. Like for example in clinical trials, or when you are trying to model certain patient data, right? So if you are trying to model the entire hospital data, and in that case you are selecting only the diabetic patient. So some of the records will be dropped out, right? So some patients may drop out, and we will not have their measurement. So this could be certain, could raise certain issues. So the methods with latent variable can be used to learn with this kind of missing data. Now let us see about beta binomial model. So this is basically a kind of a distribution, and which is a family of discrete probability distributions, and that is considered on a finite support of non-negative integers, arising when the probability of success in each of the fixed or known number of Bernoulli's trial is either known or unknown or a random number. Now the beta binomial distribution is a binomial distribution in which the probability of success at each and n trials is not fixed but randomly drawn from a beta distribution, which is represented as B of A comma B to be series. It's frequently used in Bayesian statistics, empirical Bayesian methods, and classical statistics to capture over dispersion in binomial type distributed data. So it's basically a very simplest form and very interesting method to measure or form the binomial Bayesian model. So it forms one of the basic building blocks for Bayesian modeling in cognitive science as well as other disciplines. Now the beta binomial distribution is used to model the number of successes in a binomial trials when the probability of success P is a beta A comma B random variable. So probability of success P is considered, and that is basically is a beta AB random variable. Now, what are the applications basically? One of the application is here to model things that have limited range, like you have 0 or 1, and the example are the probability of success in an experiment having two outcomes, like it could be succeed or it could be a fail. Now, let us see about maximum likelihood estimation. So, this is basically a method that determines values for the parameters of a model, and the parameter values are found such that they maximize the likelihood that the process described by the model produced that data were actually observed. Now, this is way the maximum likelihood estimation is represented. You have L of theta equal to pi, where I is basically ranging from 1 to n, and that is basically function of xi bar theta. So, maximum likelihood estimation basically ranges or the probability here is basically is always between 0 and 1. So, 0 would represent impossible or things which would never happen, and 1 would represent certain means things would surely happen. And there are various things which are shown in between which have a value ranging from 0 to 1. Like for example, you have a dice, and getting 1 in a dice could be 1 out of 6 because there are 6 possibilities. And then even chance could be when you are flipping a coin. A coin has 2 possibility binary outcomes, so it's considered as even. And then you have another example where there are 4 balls which are blue in color and 1 is red, and getting that is 4 in 1 chance. So these are certain representations for the probability, which is always in between 0 and 1. Now there is a representation for maximum likelihood as we saw, and this is an example where you have x1 to xn is given, and there is a random variable with the probability of p of x, where x bar theta is equal to p of x equal to x, where theta is a parameter. Right? So the likelihood function L of theta by x, where x equal to x1, x2 so on up to xn, is basically a set of observations, and L of theta by x is basically represented as pi, where I varies from 1 to n, and p of x is the probability considered, where xi is where it's ranging from 1 to n given theta or bar theta. So maximum likelihood estimate theta head, that is the hat of x. This is the maximizer of L of theta by x. So this is basically the better representation for maximum likelihood estimation. These are some of the important questions specifically for this topic, and very useful in various probabilistic applications. So you can just have a look at it. And if you have any queries, do not forget to connect me to the specific email ID given in the slide. Thank you. We are done for